This is Jack and the Beanstalk, set number F9002 from Funwhole. It has 1,248 pieces, includes an LED light kit, and is aged 12+. And interestingly, it doesn't include any stickers or printed elements. Before I get into my review, I just want to thank Funwhole for sponsoring this video. They provided this set to me for free, but I promise you that they didn't give me a script to read and all opinions are my own. This is the third set from Funwhole that I built personally, and Jake has reviewed one of their sets too. So with that out of the way, let's begin. Okay, I'll be honest, I really like this set. The nice part usage, the build techniques, the colour scheme, the little details, and of course, the LED lights, it's all there. Let's start off with the parts usage and build techniques. Now, I'll be honest, I am by no means an expert at mock making or set building. I mean, I usually buy Lego City sets, so that pretty much sums up the level of expertise I'm used to. But I think that's something that made this set so much more enjoyable to put together. I was using parts in a way that I wouldn't even think of using in order to achieve different or unconventional outcomes. For example, using technical elements, axles, pins, etc. as part of the Beanstalk as vines and branches or turrets to the castle, the little gear pieces, the slits in the axle holders acting as windows. It might be considered a simple idea to some, but to me it's really well thought out, and I'm not sure how those textures could have been pulled off if different parts were used instead. I wouldn't call this a particularly hard set to build, but given its 12+ age rating, I did find a few moments that made me think, and I'm 22, so I wouldn't say I struggled. If anything, I like the little bits of challenges. But this really stems, pardon the pun there, from my admitted lack of serious set building. It just hasn't been something I've been exposed to all that much, so it's refreshing to see smaller parts go together to make a sub-assembly instead of using fewer, larger parts to do the same thing. Another positive thing about this set is definitely its colour scheme. Sure, it's essentially a giant plant, but they could have cheaped out and just used 1 or 2 shades of green, but they didn't. I count at least 4 different shades, and combining these adds more depth and texture to the Beanstalk, so it doesn't look like a giant green block. Who needs to struggle to look after real plants when you can just put this on a shelf instead? There are lots of little details throughout this model, and I don't want to spoil them all here, but this set really does look great from pretty much any angle. You've got Jack's house, the golden goose, or in this case a chicken, birds, butterflies, and smaller insects scattered around the Beanstalk, plenty of smaller greenery and flowers, and some hidden treasures in the castle too. Last, but certainly not least, let's talk about one of Funwhole's biggest selling points and set features, an included LED light kit with every set. They can be powered up by the battery box or USB cable, both of which are included in the box. And before I began building sets from Funwhole, I'd never used any light kits of Lego sets, for example, and to be honest, the idea of it just didn't really appeal to me. But then I built the retro wood cabin, and then the medieval pier inn, and now Jack and the Beanstalk, and my view on LED lights and brick-based sets is definitely changing. They really do add more detail to an already detailed set. In this case, there aren't that many included, but that's definitely not a bad thing. I think the LEDs are used in all the right places, and I can't think of where else to put more. You've got them in the places where you expect to find lights, such as Jack's house and the castle, and a few scattered around the clouds too. And rest assured, all the wires are really well hidden this time, for the most part anyway. This set has a retail price of $70, as over 1,000 pieces. It includes an LED light kit, a brick separator, but very premium instruction book, and a great looking box, might I add. Could you really get all this quality and value for the same price from another brand? I don't think so. And with the positives out the way, let's talk about some of the not so positive things. Let me start this portion of the review by reminding you that all opinions are my own and I'm not being told to say, only good things about the set. But I'll be honest, I can't really think of any major flaws here. But if I had to pick some out, here they are. Firstly, the battery box does not have a place to hide here, and I know that would probably be a deal breaker to some. During the initial construction of the Beanstalk itself, the centre is pretty hollow, although not quite big enough to fit the battery box. I was wondering if it would be possible to squeeze it in there, but it's not. Out of the 3 Funwhole sets I've built, only one of them has had the battery box hidden inside an easily accessible compartment within the model itself. The other 2, including this one, managed to hide the LED wires, but not the actual battery box. I thought long and hard about whether I'm personally bothered by it this time around, and unlike the medieval pier inn where you can kinda hide the battery box, but not quite, and with this one there's literally no place to hide it, I'm actually not that bothered after all. I figured if you're buying these sets from Funwhole, then you're probably just displaying them on a shelf individually and not as part of a layout or diorama scene. And I think it's fine to hide the battery box behind something else on your shelf, or even just leave it behind the model. Chances are this set will only be viewed from the face on, or maybe 3 angles at most, so you probably won't really see it anyway. Speaking of that middle section inside the Beanstalk, a feature which I didn't expect at all, it is the secret door, as teased by the instructions. The instructions hype it up at the end to be something really awesome, but in actuality it's just so you can gain access to the chain and mechanism which can be used to make Jack climb the Beanstalk. And further to that, whilst entertaining at first, Jack climbing the Beanstalk isn't all that great. I had no idea at all that there were going to be any mechanisms in this set, and when I started putting it together, I was expecting the feature to be where you can make the beanstalk grow in size and get taller. Although as cool as that idea would be, and arguably a much more interesting feature, this just isn't the case. As I mentioned earlier, one of this set's nicest things is that many parts you might find in other brands' sets are available in more colours here. However, there is one part which I think really should have been green, and that's the modified bar that you attach to Jack so that he can climb the beanstalk. Literally any of the shades of green used in the set would have been better than leaving it in grey. Oh, and if we're recolouring parts, making the wires for the LED lights green, it would have really helped hide them away, and any that are on show could have simply been more vines to the beanstalk. And I promise this will be the last bad thing I say about the only play feature this set has, but Jack is just completely out of scale to the rest of the set. He's a standard minifigure size, but the set is closer to micro or nano scale, and the castle at the top of the beanstalk is at an even smaller scale than Jack's house at the bottom. But this really doesn't bother me all that much. I guess you could pretend Jack is actually the giant in this version of the story. Now, my final nitpicks about this set aren't really to do with the brick model itself, but the other inclusions. Whilst I didn't find any mistakes in the instructions, and the steps were easy to follow, I did find some colours in the instruction booklet that didn't completely match up to the physical elements. This can make finding the right part a little more difficult, especially when you've got to use 3 of the same element at once, but you've got 3 or 4 slightly different shades of green to pick from. Another thing I noticed was the plastic packaging in which the parts come in. It's of very high quality, perhaps too much so. The plastic for some of the bags was so thick that it wasn't easy to rip them, and I had to use scissors instead, as otherwise I was just stretching the plastic and not managing to rip it open. But that really is just a nitpick of nitpicks, and it doesn't affect the final product in any way. In conclusion, this set impressed me so much more than I expected. I've only built large buildings and structures from Funwhole, so to have something smaller but still look great with the lights on and off, that's something pretty special. The phrase less is more comes to mind, especially with the LED lights. This set might be on the small side, but just remember it does have over 1,000 pieces, many of which are in the same colour group, but I guess that's to be expected when you're pretty much building a massive plant. Overall, I do recommend this set, and actually, it might be my new favourite set from Funwhole, even if the one play feature does get old fast. Tell me in the comments what you guys think about this one. Does it appeal to you, and will you be buying it? If so, check out all the links in the description, and don't forget to use our discount code DailyWeeklyBuilds to get 10% off your order. Thanks again to Funwhole for sponsoring this video, and thank you all very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more set news, reviews, hauls, layout updates, and more. Bye for now.